She raised him like her own son. He repaid her by kicking her out onto the street. If you believe a mother's love is the strongest force on earth, you'll want to hear what happened next. It was a Thursday afternoon, the kind of day where the sun couldn't decide if it wanted to shine or quit early. Clara Mae Thompson stood on her own front porch, holding a grocery bag with a loaf of bread, a few cans of beans, and a rotisserie chicken still warm through the plastic. She pushed her hip against the front door, her door, and realized something was wrong. The key wouldn't fit. She tried again, turning it slowly, then fast. She even flipped it upside down, thinking maybe she was just confused. But it wasn't her hand that was wrong. It was the lock. The deadbolt had been changed. She knocked once, then twice, her fist making a soft thud. And then the door opened, just a crack. Her son Daniel's girlfriend, Tiffany, peeked through the gap. "Oh, hey, you weren't supposed to be back until later," Tiffany said, her eyebrows raised. Clara blinked. "Why can't I get in the house?" Tiffany hesitated, then stepped outside, pulling the door shut behind her. "I think Daniel was going to talk to you about that." "Talk to me about what?" "You don't live here anymore," Tiffany said with a nervous little smile. The words fell like a ton of bricks. Clara's chest tightened. "What did you just say?" "Look, it's just paperwork stuff. Ryan said you agreed to transfer the deed." "I what?" Slowly, it started to click. The forms Daniel had brought home. The way he brushed off her questions, telling her it was just housekeeping. "This will protect the house if anything happens to you," he had said. She had trusted him. She had trusted her son. Now, her hands were trembling. Tiffany slipped back inside, muttering something about giving Daniel a call. The door shut and locked again. Clara stood there for a full minute, then 5, then 10. She walked down the steps, the warm chicken still tucked under her arm like a baby. She didn't know where she was going, but she knew she couldn't go back inside. Daniel hadn't just taken her house. He took something much deeper. And in that moment, Clara Mae was about to remember exactly who she was. Long before the changed locks and fake smiles, Clara Mae had been a mother to a child nobody else wanted. Back in the 90s, she was a floor nurse at Mercy Grace Hospital in the small city of Crestwood. She had long ago made peace with not having children of her own. The grief was a quiet scar she carried every day. Then one night, she met Daniel. He was a toddler with a broken wrist, pale and underfed, wearing a t-shirt 3 sizes too big. His foster mother dropped him off and never came back. Clara Mae didn't go looking to adopt. But sometimes, life puts a child in your arms and dares you to put him down. 2 months later, she filed the first set of papers. 6 months after that, he had her last name. Her friends thought she was crazy. A single woman in her late 30s adopting a child with so many needs. "I'm not trying to save the whole system," she'd reply. "Just this one." She gave Daniel everything. A race car bed, swimming lessons, and packed lunches with his name written in marker. She never once missed a parent-teacher conference. But as Daniel grew older, he grew distant. By college, he barely came home. Then, after Clara Mae's husband, Walter, passed away, Daniel started coming around more. He was helpful at first, cleaning gutters and mowing the lawn. She thought they were finally healing. But she didn't know that Daniel hadn't come home to reconnect. He came to take inventory. And by the time she realized it, her name was off the deed, and her trust had been sold for nothing. Clara Mae spent that night in her car, parked 2 blocks down from the house that used to be hers. The rotisserie chicken sat untouched in the passenger seat, cold now. She didn't cry. Her hands stayed locked on the steering wheel long after the engine was off. The pain of this betrayal was a different kind of sting. It was the pain of realizing who someone never was to begin with. The next morning, Clara Mae went to the bank. It was almost funny. The balance in her main account hadn't changed because Daniel never knew her other accounts existed. After her husband Walter died from a medical error, the hospital tried to avoid blame. But Clara Mae had been a nurse too long. She pressed, filed complaints, and with the help of a lawyer friend, she won a malpractice lawsuit that no one thought she could. The settlement was for $7.2 million. She didn't tell a soul, not even Daniel. She moved the money into a separate trust under her maiden name. It wasn't about paranoia, it was about peace of mind. Money changes people, and some things are better left quiet. Sitting in that bank lobby, with her ankles swollen and her spirit cracked, Clara Mae realized something. Daniel didn't just betray her, he underestimated her. She may not have had the house, but she had resources. And she had one weapon Daniel had never learned how to use: patience. She booked a motel room and paid in cash. She needed a plan. But more than that, she needed to sit still and remember who she was. How could a son, raised with so much love, become so cold and greedy? The first time Daniel put a stack of papers in front of her, it was a Sunday afternoon. She was sitting at the kitchen table, folding dish towels. "Hey, Mama," he said, giving her a quick hug. "We brought some papers. Nothing serious, just stuff to help with taxes in the house." Tiffany, his girlfriend, barely looked up from her phone. "It's just a way to protect your assets, Miss Thompson," she chimed in. "Avoid probate." "I didn't ask to avoid anything," Clara Mae said quietly. Daniel chuckled. "I know. That's why we're doing it for you. Look, if something happens, it would be a mess to untangle everything. This just makes sure things stay in the family." Clara Mae stared at the papers. The letters were a little blurry, without her reading glasses. Daniel noticed. "Here," he said, handing her a pen. "I highlighted the signature lines. You don't need to worry about the rest." She hesitated. She wanted to say she should have someone look at them. But this was her baby, her little boy, who used to cry when she walked past his crib. So she signed. That was the last time she'd ever sit at that kitchen table. The next visits were shorter. Daniel started talking about flipping properties and unlocking equity. He even started calling her Clara Mae in front of Tiffany. One day, she overheard Tiffany say, "Once we close on this place, we can finally get that apartment in the city." That's when Clara Mae started packing a small bag, just in case. Was this really the little boy she had raised from nothing? Her body didn't move as fast as it used to, but her mind was still sharp enough to know when love had turned sour. Clara Mae checked into a budget motel on the other side of town. The bed creaked and the heater wheezed, but the room was hers, and it was quiet. She sat at the tiny desk and opened her notebook. She found the number for Marcus Mack Riley, Walter's old friend from the neighborhood. Mack was a long retired lawyer, but he was sharper than a whip. She dialed the number. A tired, raspy voice answered. "This better be Jesus or trouble." Clara Mae smiled. "Maybe it's both." "Clara Mae? It's been years." "Yeah, it's me. I need to talk to you." Mac met her at a diner the next morning. "You look like hell," he said, sliding into the booth. "Good morning to you, too," she replied. "All right," he said, setting his coffee down. "Tell me everything." So she did. She told him about the forms, the changed locks, the guest comment, and the fake smiles. When she was done, Mac let out a long sigh. "He played you, but he made one big mistake." "What's that?" "He forgot who raised him." "I signed the deed over, Mac," she said, her voice tired. "Yeah, but signing under false pretenses isn't legal, especially if he misrepresented the documents. We can take him to court, Clara Mae." "I'm not trying to destroy him," she said. "I just want my home back, and I want to look at myself again and not feel like a fool." "Then let's not destroy him," Mac nodded. "Let's teach him something." Then Clara Mae told him the secret she had kept for years. "I've got money, Mac. Real money. Settlement money from the hospital. $7.2 million. Mac nearly dropped his mug. "Good Lord, you've been sitting on $7 million and letting this boy run circles around you?" "I didn't want money to change the way I loved him," she whispered. Mac reached across the table and touched her hand. "It didn't," he said. "He changed all on his own." Before calling the new lawyers, Clara Mae needed to have one last conversation. She didn't call first. She just showed up. The yard looked too neat, like it was trying to impress a stranger. Her beloved flowers were gone. Daniel answered the door in gym shorts, his face tightening when he saw her. "Clara Mae, what are you doing here?" She stood on the porch, the screen door separating them. "I raised you when nobody else would," she began, her voice steady. "I did it because I saw a child who needed love, and I gave it every ounce I had, and you repaid me with a signature and a changed lock." He rubbed the back of his neck. You signed, Ma. It wasn't like I forced you. Don't call me Ma if you don't mean it, she said, her voice like steel. I'm not here to argue. I'm here to tell you I know what you did. And you should know I'm not broke. Never was. I've got enough money to buy this house 10 times over. Daniel's face changed from disbelief to panic and then to shame. I didn't know that. You weren't supposed to, she said. Because love isn't a business, and loyalty can't be bought. I've already spoken to a lawyer. This will go where it needs to go. You're going to sue me? He stammered. No, she said, looking him in the eye one last time. I'm going to remind you what a real home costs. With that, she turned and walked back to her car. No yelling, no begging, just a woman who had finally remembered her worth. 3 months later, the house was empty. Mac had moved fast. The court petition to investigate the fraudulent transfer passed quickly. The judge said Clara Mae had clearly been misled. Daniel never even showed up to the hearing. He had already left the state, and Tiffany had gone back to the city without him. Clara Mae didn't smile when she heard the news. She just exhaled, long and slow, like she could finally breathe again. She didn't move back in, though. The house held too many ghosts of quiet betrayals. Instead, she took her money and did something no one expected. She bought 3 small homes in the peaceful town of Oak Haven. She turned them into safe housing for women over 60 who had been evicted or abandoned by their families. She named the program Walter's Place after her late husband. The first resident was a woman kicked out by her grandson. The second was a woman whose own daughter sold her house while she was in the hospital. Clara Mae cooked Sunday meals for them all. They would sit on the porch and swap stories, healing together. 1 year later, a letter came in the mail. The handwriting was familiar. I messed up, the note said. I see that now. You didn't deserve what I did. I hope you're okay. Daniel. Clara Mae read it twice, then folded it neatly and placed it in the back of her Bible. Forgiveness to her wasn't about letting him off the hook. It was about freeing herself from the grip of what he'd done. A home isn't just a roof. It's the people under it. And she had built a new one from scratch. No paperwork needed. Real love can't be stolen, and real power doesn't scream. It builds again, quietly, from the ground up. If this story touched your heart, share it with a friend.